Am I the jerk for not changing my travel plans? I have had a trip planned for months and I was really looking forward to it. However, a friend recently asked me to change my plans so we could go on a trip together. I declined because I had already made reservations and couldn't change them. Now my friend is upset with me and says I am being selfish. Am I the asshole in this situation? My friends and I have been planning this trip for a long time. X has lived in the country we're going to for a year, and my friend Y and I were going to come see her before she moves back home. I am low on funds, so initially I said I couldn't go because it always gets really expensive when I travel with them. However, they eventually convinced me by offering to let us stay at Aita's apartment for free. The #1 activity in the country is hiking, which I was excited about. However, my friends thought it might be too tight to fit it into our 8-day trip. So I decided to do the hike before meeting up with them instead. Eventually, they became interested in the hike, and when it was time for Y to book her flights, they both decided they wanted to join me, extending the trip to 14 days. Everyone was happy, all good. However, problems started to arise. First of all, X decided to move and signed a contract that would end before our trip. This meant we now had to book accommodation, which I didn't mind. Y insisted on booking a place for the full 14 days as a base to leave her bag, which seemed unnecessary to me since we wouldn't be there for a significant portion of that time. This led to some arguments, but we eventually agreed that she would pay for the full duration, and I would pay only for the days we were there. Both Y and I were fine with this arrangement. X, however, was not as happy about it, feeling it was selfish of me not to pay for the whole duration. I explained my reasons, and she eventually let it go, though with some lingering resentment. As we started to plan the hike and book accommodations, I spent hours figuring out the best route. However, Y suddenly decided she no longer wanted to do the hike, not because she disliked the plan I had put together, but simply because she didn't feel like hiking anymore. At this point, I expressed my desire to still do the hike, which X also wanted to do. However, it didn't make sense to leave Y alone, and X suggested we do it before the trip. As much as I would have liked to do that, I couldn't afford a 20-day trip and wasn't willing to give up the hike. When I explained this, they suggested I could leave earlier if I felt stressed. But I already had plans to meet another friend in a neighboring country and couldn't change my schedule. Now they're accusing me of being selfish and inflexible. X even brought up the accommodation issue again, saying I can't cut the trip short or cancel now that it's booked, despite the initial plan being that I wouldn't pay for accommodation during the hike anyway. Would I be in the wrong if I stick to the original plan and go on the hike alone, then meet up with them for the 8 days, and only pay for accommodation during that time? Your post was removed because it exceeds the 3,000 character limit. Please consider resubmitting a briefer post. You will need to post it again. We cannot approve the removed post if you edit it. Read our rules in full before attempting to repost. Am I the jerk for shutting my sister out? My sister, Sally, 32, got me, 21, a job at the restaurant where she was working last spring. I am attending university 7 hours away, but I spend the breaks at home. This is my second summer working at this restaurant. I work as a cook, and she worked front of house as a server. The current head chef is Carl, 32 Tighter. Carl and my sister are close. It is rumored that they were caught together in the walk-in a couple of times, but as far as I know, they never actually did anything. She quit a bit ago. This situation happened on a Thursday night. The night prior, there was a very heated argument between two line cooks, and this really stressed Carl out. He wasn't there for the fight. One of the cooks that got into the fight was working, and he kept going off about the situation. Carl isn't the best at controlling his emotions. He is a really nice guy and has never made me uncomfortable at work before this situation. Apparently, Carl thought it would be a good idea to get absolutely wasted. He yelled in my face and ordered me around like a child. He apologized to me, and I didn't forgive him. This caused Sally to explode. She starts yelling at me, saying I would have forgiven Pete for this, and just because it is Carl, that's why I don't forgive him. In her exact words from a couple of days later, she says, "You're the one that was completely okay being all lovey with a guy on cocaine all the time who was your boss. But one bad day for Carl in hell breaks loose eye roll." I said many things along the lines of hop off of Carl's dick and saying by defending him to me doesn't make her chances of sleeping with him better. Eventually, she wouldn't let up and just kept yelling, so I told her to mind her own business, and I don't have time for this stupid shit, and continued to eat my soup. When we got home, she left for her boyfriend's. I was concerned about what she would have texted Carl, my boss, so I decided it would be best to text him about how I truly felt honestly. We had a long conversation and made up mostly. Basically, Sally is saying that she never yelled at me in the car, nor did she ever defend Carl. She thinks I need to apologize to her for shutting her out and not telling her what happened. Sally has also stated that she is friends with my boss, and if that upsets me, there is nothing she can do about it. When responding to the fact he scared me, she just said, "If he made you feel that way, then just leave. Don't know why you would still work there if he made you feel that way. I am currently seeking other employment, and I have an interview on Friday. She is my sister and has helped me a lot when I needed it. I love her so much, but this argument has made me see a totally different side of her. So am I the jerk for shutting my sister out until she apologizes? In my opinion, you've done nothing wrong here. Ownership needs to be made aware of this situation, and Carmen should be relieved from his position to rebuild team trust. Defending someone who abuses their power is extremely problematic, and it's understandable to cut ties if that's how they treat you. The restaurant will continue to suffer without addressing this issue properly. Am I the jerk for not inviting my friend to my wedding? I am getting married at a destination wedding with a very small group of guests, 24 guests to be exact, which my family and closest friends will be attending. My fiance's family will not be attending our destination wedding. My fiance and I are having a small lunch after our registry at a local restaurant for family and a couple of friends who are not attending our destination wedding. We have communicated with some of the friends months prior to the invitation, mentioning the lunch is for those who won't be attending the ceremony and reception overseas. More than half of the guests for the lunch are family only. My friend Amy and her partner were invited to the lunch as they couldn't go overseas. My friend Sarah was not invited to the lunch as she had RSVP'd for the overseas wedding a few months prior. Here is where the problem begins. Sarah got extremely upset with me because she wasn't invited to the lunch even though she was going to the actual overseas wedding. I texted her, called her, and apologized. It was never my intention to get her upset because of that, and I thought it wouldn't be a big deal. I was able to get a spot at the restaurant for her. She said she wasn't sure if she would be able to attend as she might be working. Sarah messaged me a few days ago and told me she won't be attending the overseas wedding anymore as her financial situation is compromised. I said it was fine, and I understood if she couldn't come as it's overseas and not everyone can go. Yesterday, my other friend Lana started organizing my bachelorette party, and I messaged Sarah, asking if she would be able to attend and, if so, to share her schedule so Lana could organize something that was easy for Sarah. Sarah said to not get worried about her dates because she will most likely be working extra shifts. I called Amy to ask if she knew if Sarah was upset with me because she hasn't said anything, but it looked like she didn't want to attend any of the events. Amy said she didn't mention anything about being upset, but she wasn't making me a priority when I didn't prioritize her at my wedding. She was invited to the wedding, but not for lunch as she was already going overseas. Amy asked her if Sarah was going to, at least for lunch, and she said she wouldn't be changing the dates because of me and that I am not a good friend. So, am I the asshole? You did nothing wrong here, but it seems like that friendship has run its course. It's time to let Sarah be a memory in your life. Do you really need someone that dramatic around? She's already one of the chosen few to go to the wedding and the lunch, and yet that's still not enough for her. You deserve better than to spend your wedding lit up trying to appease someone who throws tantrums for more attention. Am I the jerk for starting fights with my partner for working too much? Am I the asshole for being mad at my husband for working too much? I just had our second baby 2 months ago, and our oldest is 3. It's been a lot for me being a stay-at-home mom and dealing with both our children all day by myself. He has been working a lot recently to try and pay off some of our minimal debts and work towards being more financially stable. I don't have a problem with this. I have always supported him working, and I've happily held down the fort. But at the same time, he would also take 2-3 days off, giving me some days where he's in the house and I can get a break or go out for a little. We only have one car, and we live in a state where you can't go anywhere without a car. So for the most part, I am stranded at home with our kids, except for those few days he takes off. My husband's sister bought a house about 1 month ago and asked him to do some work for her like painting and landscaping, and she would pay him. At first I thought it was great, it's extra money, and for her to pay him I'm glad she thought about him. But here's the issue. For the past month, he hasn't taken a single day off. Any free time he has, he goes over to her house to keep working on it. On days he goes to work, he gets off work and goes straight over there. So, for the past month, I've been at home from 6 a.m. sometimes 5 a.m. all the way until 11 p.m. at night most days, and even later sometimes. It has slowly started to upset me because I feel like a single parent. He doesn't help me at all in the night with our newborn, and then I am home alone all day with both kids. I've tried to say something about it, and we got into a fight because I got upset that even on Mother's Day, he left me alone the whole day here. His argument is that there are bills to pay, but in my opinion, regardless of that, I feel that he should put in the effort to take at least one day off for my sake and my mental health. I've expressed to him that I feel like I'm going crazy stuck at home all the time, but he doesn't understand. I should also add that before his sister hired him for this work, he was going to her house to hang out often and coming home late. I spoke to him about it and told him that we have a newborn, and any chance he gets to come home and help me, he should be taking it because I need him right now. Shortly after that, she hired him for the job, and I can't help but feel like this is a way for him to completely remove himself from any duties at home with our kids. I can't say anything because she's paying him. I had huge arguments with him when our first baby was born because he did similar things, finding excuses to not come home and help me. So this is a pattern, and he makes me feel dumb or stupid for it. We just got into another argument because I feel like I'm always upset, holding resentment because of all of this. At this point, I just want to know, am I the asshole? I think you are not in the wrong here. He is definitely avoiding things and making excuses, and it's clear he's not concerned about how this is affecting you or your children. You deserve a break, and he needs to be at home doing his share of the parenting. When all the stress of financial responsibility lands on one person, it can strain the marriage to the point of breaking. Your husband might be more willing to work with you on being present at home if you both agree to share some of the financial burden, which could allow for better long-term stability and shared parenting responsibilities. Am I the jerk for attending a Memorial Day pool party but not church? I, 18 years old female, was just recently put on birth control 2 weeks ago. One of those side effects I have been cursed with is debilitating nausea and vomiting. My father, 43 years old male, is extremely religious and has forced me and my siblings since birth to go to church and adhere to its strict modesty rules. The only time we are really allowed to miss church is due to sickness or travel that is out of our control. Today was the usual routine. Get up, get dressed, and go to church. We get there and I am hit with a wave of that terrible nausea that has been haunting me for the past 2 weeks, so I run to the bathroom and throw up. Afterwards, I find my dad and tell him that I need to leave because of said vomiting episode, and he lets me. However, our pastor's wife overheard and before I hit the door invited me to a little pool party for Memorial Day that she was throwing at her house after church. I told her I would take some medicine and rest and try to be there if I'm feeling better by then. After church, I took some medicine and felt better, so I got dressed and went to the party. I ran into my dad first after getting there, and he asked what I was doing there. I told him that I was feeling better, so I was there to eat and have a good time. He then blew up and told me to go home because he would not allow me to skip church and only go to the fun stuff, and that he has a reputation to uphold, and that allowing his child to do that looks bad. I told him that I don't care about his reputation and that I was going to enjoy myself and entered the party anyway. I did enjoy myself, but my dad made himself scarce. So, am I the bad guy here? You are not the jerk. His reaction was seriously overblown. If the church is going to judge him for this, they're going to be way worse after you finally leave for another one. So don't stress and live your life. Leave the guilt to the guilty, though God knows half the time they don't feel it, and let the gossips wag their tongues all the way below if that's what pleases them. Am I the jerk for publicly shaming my roommate for slamming doors? Kim is not the most considerate person. She tends to keep to herself and doesn't engage in conversations with us. Whenever we attempt to address issues with her regarding adhering to our agreed-upon rules, she becomes defensive and angry. For instance, we have a rule where dishes must be cleaned within 24 hours. Kim refuses to wash her dishes for a week, claiming that she is a grown adult with a job. When we kindly remind her about the rule, she gets upset and accuses us of bullying her. Kim has a habit of slamming doors very loudly, especially her bedroom door, which is located next to my other roommate's room. This loud slamming has caused items to fall off the wall and has even resulted in a crack on the doorframe. The neighbors downstairs have complained about the noise disturbing their children. Despite our conversations with her about this issue, Kim becomes defensive and claims she is unaware of her actions. I suggested getting door mufflers to reduce the noise, but she threatened us, saying we would regret touching her door. This loud noise is particularly distressing for my other roommate, who has a heart condition and gets nauseous and throws up due to sudden loud noises. Kim shows no concern for this. Oddly enough, Kim seems to care about the opinions of strangers, as she became self-conscious when the downstairs neighbors confronted her about the noise. However, her behavior did not change significantly in the long run. In response to Kim's door slamming, my roommate and I have started yelling phrases like "stop slamming the door" or "please keep it down" when it occurs. During these instances, Kim overhears our conversations and becomes upset. My family members have also noticed the loud slamming during phone calls and made comments about Kim's behavior. This seems to bother her, and she now closes the door quietly. Kim recently expressed her disapproval of us discussing her issues with others, claiming that she cannot control her actions and doesn't want to be shamed. She also tends to stomp loudly, giving away her eavesdropping tendencies. She threatened to report my roommate and me to the management for harassment and invasion of privacy, suggesting that she may try to have us evicted. While I am planning to move out in 2 months, I am questioning whether I am in the wrong for my actions. TL Dugder. My roommate has a chronic door slamming problem and only stops when shamed. She believes we are wrong for discussing her behavior with our family and friends. You are not in the wrong here. She claims to be a grown adult, yet gets defensive when told not to slam a door and refuses to contribute to a better living environment. It's straight up immature and inconsiderate, especially when it disrupts neighbors and a roommate with a heart problem. Honestly, you and the other roommate would be better off without her. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.